Zach Elliott. Feel free to argue. I'm not going to be talking about anything topical today. Instead, I'm going to be talking a little bit about kind of a general thing. And that has to do more with the way that, we communicate with children and whether or not, how we talk to them about the world. Because what kind of brought this to mind is I've recently had a bit of a dust up with another parent at the school that my kids go to. And it had to do with like a presentation of a play. They have this thing called Kids Night Out. And the kids all present plays. Mostly the kids talking to other kids, lots of in jokes, lots of parodies of current kid shows that they're all watching. So a lot of it is directed at the kids level, and the grown-ups are there, but they're not getting a whole lot of it. But there was this. Oftentimes there's also a kid who kind of like breaks the mold a little bit and tries to do something a little bit more challenging and interesting. And this year it was a kid doing a play about, it was set in World War One. And the point of the play, as much as I could tell from it, I mean, it was still a play written by like an 11-year-old, but I mean, it had to do with how it was not possible to kind of escape from war, because the beginning of the play had these guys being at the front, and then in the middle of the play they went back home, and the things they wanted to be the same were the same. The kind of like evidence of the war was everywhere, and that was just the point of the play, is that it was sort of an inescapable part of their lives at this point. And I thought that was cool. I thought it was one of the better written, plays of the evening. Even better than a lot of plays that were written by kids who were significantly older. But I guess there was a parent who did not attend the performance, but then got information about the play through their child and felt that, Germans were being slighted as part of it. Well, that wasn't the case, but it was secondhand information. But I guess the more troubling part of it is that he felt that it was a topic area that was kind of off limits for children of that age. They shouldn't be dealing with questions of war and loss and stuff like that at all. Well, this is where I really started to part company with this guy. And since he posted his thing as an open letter, I also posted my response as an open letter. And most of what I was talking about had to do with the fact that I felt that there's always really a way to talk to kids about, the stupidity of the world. I mean, there's a lot of it out there. And, a perfect example of this was just the other day where, Devin was, asking about some things that the country was doing. And, it was like a foreign policy thing. And had to do with like some historical stuff she was dealing with in class. And I said, look, if you really want to understand why this country operates the way it does, it's actually very simple. The principle, such as it is, that's at the center of our foreign policy, the thing that drives everything, is an assumption that we can get more stuff by forcing people to give us the stuff than we can by being their friends and just hoping, because we're their friends, that they will give us a good price. And I even admitted to her that's probably true. By using threats and force, assuming that you don't care about the damage you do with those threats and force, if you just care about how cheap the thing is that comes out the other end, that's the best way to go. That you will actually have to, probably give up some stuff. Live with a few less things. If you wanted to do things the other way, if you wanted to do things the friend's way. And, a lot of people think that this is A, naive, and B, probably borderline, communistic or, world government oriented or something like that. I think it's more just a matter of trying to find a framework through which you can explain some very complicated stuff and in a way that, kids will understand. And the reason why I think it's important to get these ideas across, even to very young children, is that all the stupidity of adults comes from somewhere. It comes from these like bad assumptions that we carry into our adulthood without questioning. And if we really want to, you know, get some kind of control of the future, I think it's a very important that, we educate our children properly, and we give them ways of looking at the world so that they can make sense of it and so that they're interested and engaged in the world. Because if you look at the world and it just like looks like it's a big, jumble of random crap that, doesn't make any sense to anybody, then I think it's very hard to engage with that kind of world. You're much more likely to ignore it and say, let somebody else figure it out, and cede, all your judgment to, professional manipulators. I think if you want to be an active agent in the world, you have to make effort to try to understand it. And I don't think it's really, really that hard to understand how people operate. It's not that hard to explain things. It's just sometimes it's uncomfortable, and it takes like a little bit of extra explaining to understand why the world is so screwed up. And sometimes you have to admit you just don't know. But I mean, talk to my kids very frankly about things. I tell them, for example, that, the Bush government knew before they went into Iraq that everything that they were using as a justification to go in there was a lie. They knew that. They absolutely, unquestionably knew that. And my kids know that they knew that. And they know that our country didn't do anything about it. They agree that that's a problem. Because, I mean, even a kid can see that that's a problem. I talk to them, not about what constitutes torture, but that we do torture. About why that is bad, why that is harmful, what that costs us as a country. There are ways to express all of these concepts to children. There's a way to talk to them frankly about the damage we do, and I think it's necessary. Because I think the naive standpoint is actually right. I think it will actually end up doing more benefit for more people than the way that we currently proceed in our foreign policy. I think this point was really made very well by Howard Zinn in The People's History. He, in turn, is like quoting for somebody else, but I'll get right into it. 3 years before the terrible events of September 11, 2001, a former lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Air Force, Robert Bowman, who had flown 101 combat missions in Vietnam and then had become a Catholic bishop, commented on the terrorist bombings of the U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania. In an article in the National Catholic Reporter, he wrote about the roots of terrorism. We are not hated because we practice democracy, value freedom, or uphold human rights. We are hated because our government denies these things to people in third world countries whose resources are coveted by our multinational corporations. That hatred we have sown has come back to haunt us in the form of terrorism. Instead of sending our sons and daughters around the world to kill Arabs so we can have the oil under their sand, we should send them to rebuild their infrastructure, supply clean water, and feed starving children. In short, we should do good instead of evil. Who would try to stop us? Who would hate us? Who would want to bomb us? That is the truth the American people need to hear. And by American people, that includes children. The children need to hear that message as well. It's possible to do good instead of evil. It's possible for us to stop being an international bully, to live peaceably within our borders, to make a go of it with just the huge bounty of resources we have within our borders. There's a way to talk to kids about everything. And we need to do it. I mean, the generation that's coming after us could be the last. We need to find a way to talk to them about everything. Let them know. Let them understand. Let them fix this fucked up world. Don't let them go into the future with a pile of delusions they're going to have to unlearn. Don't do it. Hey, this is Zach Elliott. You can always feel free to argue. Have a good weekend, people.